What's up, everybody? I'm Just Wayne, and welcome to the Just Wayne Show. And today, I want to talk to you about somebody I've been a fan of since 2004. I've long said that the first time I heard All Falls Down by Kanye West was the moment I fell in love with hip hop. Now, if you grew up like I grew up, the movie Brown Sugar, Snide Lathan's character was like, Sidney Shaw, when did you fall in love with hip hop? For me, that was that moment. And I used to say all the time that I miss the old Kanye, straight from the go Kanye, set on his goals Kanye. I hate the new Kanye, the bad mood Kanye, the always rude Kanye, spaz in the news Kanye. That song resonated so deeply with me because I was like, yeah, I miss that guy. But as I've watched Kanye have a complete disregard for humanity over the last several years, and it's coming to more and more of a head, I've had to sit and deal with, how did we get here? Like, as a person who has classically said that I was a Kanye fan, how did I get here? How did we get here? And it's led me to this reality that this is who Kanye is. And I can't say any longer that I miss the old Kanye. So without further ado, thanks for coming to my Wayne Talk, and let's go.
He's not even a rapper, more like a playwright. Like Tyler Perry, the version of Kanye, they act right. If I had 10,000 pens, all the movies I would sell you. If I had 10,000 tongues, all the stories I would tell you. You need a glossary to interpret the glossolalia of how I do the raps and the beats. Well, yeah, for real, yeah, tempo, I just blaze. I respect the legends, but this is my thing.
Kanye West has had one of the biggest stamps on music and fashion of anyone of my generation. Like I said, when I first heard All Falls Down, I was like, what? And that summer of 2004 sits very special for me. The All Falls Down music video with Stacey Dash in it, new workout plan music video, of course, slow jams. One of my favorite lyrics of all time is, she got a light-skinned friend, look like Michael Jackson, got a dark-skinned friend, look like Michael Jackson. And even before that, I remember when H to the Izzo, V to the Izzy, for shits on my nissel, used to dribble down the VA, sheer. I remember when that came out. And just to know, that was the beginning of this Kanye West production experience. And then we got the beginning of the Kanye West musical experience. And I don't think a lot of people have had the imprint on music that he has. I think if you took all of Kanye's music away and just erased it off the face of the planet, then rap doesn't really progress to the place it is now. I'm not saying it wouldn't have progressed, but Kanye was very influential in what hip hop has become to this day. And what's frustrating about that is Kanye is so incredibly talented. And he'll tell us that. He'll tell you, I'm a genius, bro. Like when you think about it, really, when you think about college dropout, bro, and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fan, I am the #1 most impactful artist, bro. He has no problem telling you that. But unfortunately, I think that Kanye mistakenly believes that his talent can only break through on the other side of extreme antics. And it has really become a hallmark for Kanye. His antics are the thing that he is as known for now as his music. I would argue now we're entering the space where he's more known for his antics than his music, than the things that he's talented at. And for some reason, I think that he believes that those antics are necessary. And the reality is we have trained him to believe this. As these antics have grown in severity over the last 20 years, we have given him the attention he craves. Because he believes that success is on the other side of attention. It's kind of very clear that I have to do these things to get attention, and by getting attention, my talent can break through. And we have, for all intents and purposes, over the years, given him that attention. And so it has reinforced for him this idea that I have this talent, but I have to do something crazy in order to break through. He says on the song Wouldn't Leave from his album Ye, which on the album cover for Ye, it says, I hate being bipolar. It's awesome. He says, I use the same attitude that done got us here. So he believes that his attitude, his bravado, and the antics and the ranting are the things that got them there. And what's unfortunate is I believe it's his talent, but we have reinforced this other ideology. Not only that, but Kanye is a self-identified a-hole. He says it on Get 'Em High, which me and my son will at times just put that song on and just right. Throw your mother hands. Right. So we'll bop to that. And he says, why you think me and Dame cool? We a-hoes. That's why we hear your music in fast forward. Because we don't want to hear that weak no more. Throw your mother in hands. Right? So like, he identifies it there. Or in Diamonds Are Forever, which I remember the first time I heard, if your stripper name is Portia and you get tips from any man, then your fat friend, her nickname is Minivan. I was in Italy and I heard that for the first time. I took I had the little headphones that, hooked around the back. That's how old I am. I took them joints off and I just sat there for a second, staring at the Italian countryside and was like, that fool just said that. Put the headphones back on when he said, take your diamonds and throw them up like you're bulimic. Yeah, the beat cold, but the flow is anemic. Took the headphones back off and I was like, this man is spitting. But on that same song, he said, what more could you ask for? The international hoe who complains about what he is owed and throws a tantrum like he is 3 years old. You gotta love it, man. Somebody still speak from his soul. So he believes that being an a-hole and having these antics is good. It's a virtuous thing for him to do, that he's speaking from his soul. And once again, we have reinforced it. We have never told him to stop until it was too late. We always, and I'm saying we as in the people who admired his music and consumed it, we would constantly be like, yeah, no, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have done that, but I get it. And so for him, he was like, you got to love it though. Somebody still speak from his soul. He believes that these tantrums that he throws are good for the culture, that it is something that we are all actually craving, that we actually want that from him. And the problem is that these tantrums have intensified over the years. And so we're going to walk through in this episode, and this is going to be a little bit longer episode probably than my episodes normally are, but just rock with me. We're going to walk through those tantrums, what he did, how it actually aligns to this overarching ethos that Kanye has. Because I believe that Kanye's ethos is that I'm just going to do something, I'm going to wild out. I don't think Kanye actually believes anything outside of believing in himself to get his next win. So we're going to walk through those tantrums. We're going to see how they're consistent, how they have intensified, the messaging that we have communicated to him as the consumers up to this point. And then we're going to talk at the end about what's the conclusion of this? What do we do? I'll say on the very front end of this, watching Kanye this last couple of weeks between the Grammys, the Grammys actually kind of made sense. I was like, damn, that makes sense. It's Kanye. And that lady he married to right now, that whole situation is weird. And then the commercial, the website, the t-shirts on the website, I've just been I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know if he's going to make it to the end of this year. And I'm not trying to speak doom and gloom on him. I've been worried about bro for years, probably for a decade now. I've genuinely been concerned for his health and life for a decade. And I just don't know how much deeper into this he can go before something bad happens. So with that being said, I want to take y'all back 20 years. Like I said, 2004, that summer of 2004, that was the summer before my freshman year of high school. And man, I will contend that 2004 is the best year of music, popular music I had ever experienced, between the emergence of Kanye and the College Dropout to the Confessions album. Just across the board, what was happening in 2004 was incredible, right? Drop It Like It's Hot is 2004. Let me hear you say this is banana. Anyway, 2004, that a year. It was a year. And 20 years ago, we get this moment.
I would be a hypocrite because I've tried to turn away from the TV because it's too hard to watch. I've even been shopping before even giving a donation. So now I'm calling my business manager right now to see what is the biggest amount I can give, and just to imagine if I was down there, and those are my people down there. So anybody out there that wants to do anything that we can help with the setup, the way America is set up to help the poor, the black people, the less well off as slow as possible. I mean, Red Cross is doing everything they can. We already realize a lot of the people that could help are at war right now, fighting another way, and they've given them permission to go down and shoot us.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
So September 2nd of 2005, on the aftermath of what was a catastrophe, not only is New Orleans built into a bowl, so hurricanes are a big deal for them. There were a lot of conspiracies about what happened. So I live in Minnesota, and a lot of Katrina, we call them Katrinites, like moved to Minnesota on the other side of that natural disaster. And like, I was frustrated that people were referring to them as refugees. I'm like, they're Americans. What do you mean they're refugees? I was frustrated with the way that when white people were carrying groceries, it was like someone just trying to find food to survive. When it was black folks, they're looting. Like, the way that the whole thing played out, there are conspiracies about why the levees broke. Were they intentionally broken? What happened there? Why were black neighborhoods in particular hit? If you ever want to dive deep into what happened, there's a documentary by Spike Lee called When the Levee Breaks that I've only watched once, and it shook me to my core. And I would just encourage you to go watch that, When the Levee Breaks. But on the other side of that, there is this like fundraising event for Hurricane Katrina, and Kanye just is standing up there, and all this is happening, and you can see he's starting to get agitated. He's like, I didn't even realize how bad it was, and like I was trying to turn my face away because, bro, like my publicist had to let me give more money. And then all of a sudden, George Bush does not care about black people. Now, I'm gonna be real. I sat back and I was like, yeah, that's how we feel. That's how we feel collectively. That's how we feel that this is happening, in particular to the way that FEMA responded, the way the federal government responded, the way that the media has covered it, the way that all this went down. It feels like in a country that has so consistently, conspiratorially destroyed black lives, it felt very on par and on brand for America to intentionally not save or help the black folks impacted by this natural disaster. But the reality is this. This is a great example from jump of Kanye having an antic, throwing a tantrum, doing a thing that places the spotlight exclusively on him. Because when we walked away from that event, we didn't talk about how much money was raised for Hurricane Katrina and the people who were affected by it. We talked about Kanye's antics, and 20 years later, whenever Katrina's brought up, someone brings up this idea and this moment of George Bush does not care about black people. And so instead of the moment furthering the cause, he threw a tantrum. He spoke from his soul, right? You got to love it, man. Somebody still speak from his soul. Like, it was what he's describing in Diamonds Are Forever. He's like, okay, it might be wild, but like, you got to love it though, right? And we did. We fed the behavior because some part of us agreed with it. And we were like, well, I might not have done that personally, but, I'm glad somebody said it. I'm glad that he was able to step into the fray and say the thing that I agree with. And what we're going to find is that Kanye, the tantrum, the antic, the spot we're landing in right now for many of us has very little to do with whether or not he's doing something that is egregious. It has everything to do that for a lot of us, we no longer agree with the antic itself. So this is college dropout time. This is that time. It's the first album, and George Bush does not care about black people. And then the next year, in November of 2006, at the MTV Europe Awards, Kanye loses an award for a video for the Touch the Sky video. And he did this.
This video cost $1 million, fam. I had Pam Anderson. I'm jumping across canyons.
Now you're gonna have to share.
Oh, hell. Oh. Hey, if I don't win, the award show loses credibility. I appreciate it, man. It's nothing against you. I've never seen your video. It's nothing against you. But hell no, man. I love y'all.
Hey, you should have seen the video, man.
Now, as I was digging for this podcast episode and just trying to find these different examples to help inform me fully, I will admit I didn't remember this. I didn't remember this happening. And so when we get to one of the events that's coming up pretty soon here, which is the Taylor Swift MTV Music Video Awards incident, I always looked at that as an aftermath, something that Kanye did on the aftermath of his mother dying. And I want to sit here publicly and say I was wrong for that. Like, I was absolutely wrong. I wasn't blaming Donda's death, but I was blaming Donda's death for Kanye starting to do things that felt increasingly unhinged. Well, here it is. Kanye gets on stage and he says, if I lose, the award show loses credibility. He didn't like that he lost an award. He got up on stage while those dudes were doing their acceptance speech and said, nah, I should have won that. What are we talking about? I spent $1 million on this video. I had Pam Anderson. What are we talking about? Like, the idea that this is somehow new behavior for Kanye is shattered when we just look at his behavior consistently. Because this is the late registration era. This is Gold Digger. This is Diamonds. This is Touch the Sky. Like, and what's wild about it is at the same time he's doing this and he's doing these things with the intention of having the attention on himself, in his lyrics, he's saying, like, I'm ahead of my time, sometimes years out, so the powers that be won't let me get my ideas out, and that makes me want to get my advance out and move to Oklahoma and just live in my aunt's house. Yeah, I remain so thought of leaving it all behind. Kanye, step away from the limelight, like when I was on the grind in the 1999. So lyrically, he's like, I don't know that I like this. Like, if you listen to Late Registration is Kanye basically telling us, I don't like fame. Like, go back and re-listen to that album. You might be like, Wayne, at the end of this pod, I don't know if I want to re-listen to Kanye's music. But go back and re-listen to that album with that framing. Is the first couple songs is just like, hey, like, you know, I'm still conscious, right? And I heard him say, nothing's ever promised tomorrow today. And then gotta testify, walk up in the club, look extra fly. And then the rest of the album, he's taking us on a journey of really examining the fact that fame is messing with him. That he's surrounded by people who are just trying to take his money, that he needs to slow down. He's doing too much, and he's got family members who are sick, and he's got addictions that he's really afraid of, and like all of these different things. And he ends the album by being like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. But then he kind of turns around and says, don't start panic and stay calm. Shorty's at the door because they need more inspiration for the light they souls and they song. They said, sorry, Mr. West is gone. He ends up by saying, like, I think y'all kind of need me, so I'm going to keep going. And so he's feeding the outward character. If you watch the Genius documentary, Cudi talks very explicitly about once the College Dropout came out, him and Kanye kind of split. And he told Kanye told Cudi, I don't want people to see the behind the scenes anymore. I'm playing the character they want me to play. So he's playing this character. He is out just being this version of himself. Internally, he's like, this is too much. And I feel disconnected from like who I am as a person. But outwardly, he's doing anything and everything he can, all the antics to get the attention, to push his message and his voice forward. And this is also the first instance where he gets, it was a little sippy. I was sipping, that's why this happens. And once again, this is the College Dropout and Late Registration era. Donda's still alive and he's crashing award show stages like this. So all of that's happening. His ego is growing. His fame is growing. His cachet is growing. And every time he does an antic, and just gets a little slap on the wrist, but then is also told, well, I mean, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. It just continues to feed the tantrum. It continues to feed the toddler who will always collapse in the mall because he knows that that's the attention that he can get to win. After that, we get graduation. Shortly after graduation drops, Kanye's mom does tragically pass away. And when I've always attributed so much of the aftermath of this to grief, the reality is if you go listen to Pinocchio's story at the end of 808s and Heartbreaks, that's Kanye grieving. He feels responsible for his mother's death. He feels like had he just not moved them out to LA, then they wouldn't have died. which is interesting because Kanye's accident happened when he was in LA. And then his mother passes away while they're in LA. So he kind of feels like almost like a final destination thing, like something was going to happen bad in LA, which we then get to, and I'm getting way ahead of myself. We then get to in the song No More Parties in LA, where he's pleading with his wife, like, can we not go out so much? And in it, he talks very explicitly throughout his verse on No More Parties in LA about the fact that like Mulholland Drive does not have barricades. So he's constantly thinking about this idea of death and its connection to LA. And then that song actually ends with skirt, skirt, crash. So Kanye has this deep connection between death and LA that happens here. And in Pinocchio's story, you really get the sense of how he's grieving. And 808s and Heartbreaks, I always was like, oh, a lot of this is the fiance, like he's sad because his mom died, but then he focuses his energy on his fiance leaving him. And the reality is he tells us in the Yeezus tour that a lot of the songs were actually about losing the love of his mother. So that's happened. He's already created and established a pattern of behavior. We add in alcohol, we add in grief, we add in ego. And then we get probably the most famous of any of these moments.
Music, so thank you so much for giving me a chance to win a VMA award.
Yo, Taylo, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
And I'm gonna be honest, when this happened, I was like, he's not wrong, but he was wrong for what he did. Like what he said wasn't wrong, but how he did it was wrong. And I'm reinforcing the behavior when I do that. And we are reinforcing the behavior when we do that. And so I was like, because like, let's be clear. Do I believe that Single Ladies was the best video that was nominated that year? Absolutely yes. Do I think that Kanye should have interrupted her, Taylor, to say that? No. Do I think that Taylor in some small ways and Swifties in larger ways have utilized this moment in perpetuity to create a victim ethos and arc for Taylor Swift? Absolutely. Do I think a lot of that is rooted in blackness? Yes. Do I think that some of the antics that Kanye does are viewed differently because he's a black man? Absolutely yes. Does that make what Kanye does right? No. The reality is, in this moment, if you watch it back, Kanye was wrong for what he did and what he said. Because whatever Kanye thinks should have happened at an awards show, go on Twitter afterward and rant about it. Do what I do. Hop on TikTok. I'd be on TikTok and be like, I don't understand how that happened. As a matter of fact, I'd be in people's comments when they say they don't understand, and I'd be like, I'm willing to have a conversation with you. And I'm also sometimes like, I get why you don't understand that. Like, it's award shows. Award shows aren't the one person's choice award. And yet Kanye hijacked that moment, exhibiting again a behavior that collectively we had reinforced, pushing him to do another tantrum to lead to more attention that he was going to be able to utilize in order to win. Because at the end of the day, Kanye actually only cares about the win at the end. And he will use the antics in order to what he thinks showcases talent. But what really happens is we have reinforced the tantrum as who Kanye is. And the reality is that the only thing that you can do on the other side of something like that is drop a fire album. And unfortunately, that's exactly what Kanye did. Kanye dropped what I think is one of the 3 best rap albums of all time, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Talking about the construction of the album, Noah Callahan, writer for Complex, said it was a communal atmosphere. With the right songs and the right album, he can overcome any and all controversy. And we are here to contribute, challenge, and inspire. Talking about all the people who were in the room to help Kanye make My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So he has the tantrum that we will never forget. And from that, he isolates himself and creates this piece of art. We have once again reinforced. Here's the antic, and then it gives you the space to showcase your talent. And between that and Watch the Throne, it's like, yeah, Good Music Fridays. Yeah, like what was happening at that time was wild. Like, this is incredible what you're pulling off. And we got to the point where it was like the album was doing it. The music was doing it. The Runaway music video, short film, was doing it. Something I've always wished for Kanye is that he would just make music. That he would just sit back somewhere and create. Because so often the creations are shrouded in controversy. Now, controversy does drive attention and engagement. I'm highly aware of that. And maybe there's a reason why Kanye is where he is or was where he was, and I'm not. I don't think that it's purely like some guys' talents and some aren't. I think that controversy does work on some people's behalf. And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like I have control over controversy. And so I won't utilize it to my advantage. But every time Kanye's getting ready to sell us something, we get another antic. For example, we get out of Watch the Throne, out of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and we make our way to Yeezus. And Yeezus is an intentionally disruptive album that I will admit, when it dropped, I sat in my car and I listened to it and I was like, I don't like this album. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what he's trying to do. Do I think it's innovative? Yes. Do I think it's inventive? Yes. Is it something that I wouldn't have imagined? Sure. Do I like it? No. Now, thank you to the Dissect podcast and listening to that. I understand it now, and that made me appreciate it more. But like for a long time, I was like, Jesus, whatever. Like there's a couple tracks on there, but whatever. But we get the press tour around Yeezus, and we get some particularly interesting moments because he is alienating people with the sound that he's making. He's alienating people by some of the imagery he's using. He's alienating people by saying that he is a god, right? So we get the Zane Lowe interview where Kanye says this.
Where just like that, when someone comes up and says something like, I am a god, everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a god. I just told you. That's who I think I am. Would it have been better if I had a song that said, I am a nigga? Or if I had a song that said, I'm a gangster? Or if I had a song that said, I am a pimp? All those colors and patinas fit better on a person like me, right? But to say you are a god, especially when you got shipped over to the country that you're in and your last name is a slave owner's. How could you say that? How could you have that mentality?
And that entire interview was unhinged. There are so many memes and so many GIFs and so many spoofs and skits that have come off of that interview because the entirety of the thing is unhinged. And then we get another unhinged interview, which one of my favorites is, how, Sway?
Or do you want to marginalize me till I'm out of my moment?
Or why don't you empower yourself and don't need them and do it yourself?
How, Sway?
Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Kanye.
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers, Sway.
Kanye.
I've been doing this more than you.
Doing what
You
more
ain't
than
got.
me? Come on, chill out.
You
bro.
ain't got the
Kanye,
answers.
relax.
You ain't got the answers.
I'm asking you.
You
a
ain't been
question.
doing the education,
bro.
You ain't been doing the education.
Kanye, calm down.
You don't have the answers though.
Calm down.
Because you trying to give me advice about something. You ain't got the answer. You ain't spent $13 million of your own money trying to empower yourself.
Yes, but I spent hundreds of thousands and putting out clothing lines at a smaller degree. All I'm asking you,
and it ain't no Ralph though. It ain't Ralph level.
Let me ask you this. I'm asking
What's the name of your clothing line? We don't know.
Kanye,
you know what I'm saying?
Because I lost money.
In this interview, there's a part where he's like, I am the #1 most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. Walt Disney, Nike, Google. Like, I like that part so much that I actually used it in a song of mine called Delulu, right? Like, because it's like, that's delusional. And I need to be more delusional in order to get my music out and be able to accomplish my dreams. And here's the unfortunate part, is Kanye's music has had such a profound impact on my music creation. Like his production, I would say Kanye, Pharrell, like Kanye and Pharrell specifically have had such an impact on how I think about music and how I approach making beats and even rapping that doing this feels really difficult. Like having this conversation feels difficult because I'm not approaching this as a person who's not a Kanye fan. I'm not approaching this as a person who doesn't know that discography deeply, who can't just pull a lyric out of my brain at any given point, who doesn't hear a snare sound and doesn't immediately think, oh my gosh, that is a Kanye type snare. And so like a lot of my music, people be like, oh, you kind of sound like Kanye. And I'd be like, yeah, I get it. But I won't say something anti-Semitic. That's just pathetic. That is a lyric from my song, Until. Anyway, enough musical plugs. So as Kanye is working his way through this press tour, just being unhinged, we got to the point around 2013, around Yeezus, that it was like, every time we see Kanye, he's going to be unhinged. We just knew that he was going to be ranting and raving and say something outlandish, and he was going to end up on the front page of TMZ, and he was going to end up, on E! Hollywood Tonight, and they were going to be talking about what he said, and then on, 60 Minutes, someone was going to do a thing about him, and then on the nightly news, we knew that Kanye was going to be driving attention. This is 2013. And at the time, I was saying, God, he's never gotten over the death of his mom. Like he's just never gotten over the death of his mom. He is still grieving, and he never stopped. He never took time off. He went right from the death of his mom into the Glow in the Dark tour, which was a tour for graduation. Right from that into the Taylor Swift incident that led him out to Rome to do fashion, and then back to Hawaii to make My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Watch the Throne. And then they went on tour for that. And after that tour, boom, we get Yeezus. When has he stopped? He just needs to take some time to grieve. I felt for him. And the reality is, even though his narcissism is showing through clearly, I was still resonating with the guy who said, man, I promise, I'm so self-conscious. That's why you always see me with at least one of my watches. Because I remember when I heard that line, that was the first time hip hop resonated with me. I was still resonating with that guy. Like I still saw him as that. I still saw him as the guy who said, let's take it back to the plan. Me and my mama hopped in that U-Haul van. Any pessimists, I ain't talked to them. Plus, I didn't have the phone in my apartment. I was still hearing that person. I still was like, I've been waiting on this my whole life. I still saw him as that. So I was like, I just really wish he would stop doing interviews because, God, the music is good enough. The music is good enough. Then he goes on to talk about the merch for the Yeezus tour. He has a song called New Slaves on the album Yeezus, and how some of the merch had the Confederate flag. And he's like, I'm reclaiming the Confederate flag.
I mean, do you think people are overreacting with this?
React how you want. Like I said,
it's making them react, I guess, right?
Any energy you got is good energy. The Confederate flag represented slavery in a way. The way my abstract, that's my abstract take on what I know about it, right? So I made the song New Slaves. So I took the Confederate flag and made it my flag. It's my flag now. Now what you gonna do?
And at that point I was like, bro, what are we doing? What are we doing? But I ignored it. I pushed it away. And I was like, it's Kanye being Kanye. I still like Black Skinhead, right? It's Kanye being Kanye. Bound video is a little weird, but the song is dope. You know what I'm saying? And throughout the Yeezus tour, him ranting, talking about different things, I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And then we got to Pablo, a gospel album with a bunch of cuss words. I remember when I found out that Kirk Franklin was working with Kanye, and I remember being like, okay, this could be super interesting, and downloading Tidal and sitting down to listen to The Life of Pablo. And I got through Ultralight Beam, and I was like, who's this Chance guy? I like that verse. I wasn't plugged in enough at the time. I'm be real. I was pastoring. And so I wasn't plugged in. I was trying to avoid secular music, but Kanye was my exception. Every church kid has an exception, like a secular exception. And if they say that they don't, that's cool. God bless you. But for the rest of us heathens, we had our exceptions to the no secular music rule. Kanye was mine. And so I was like, yo, this Chance guy's I like that, and got through Ultralight Beam, and then got into Father I Stretch. And then I was like, if I F this model and she just bleach her a-hole and I get bleach in my t-shirt, I'm gonna feel like an a-hole. It's like, whoa. But then we're going through all the things, right? And then the famous video drops. And I was like, what is this? Now, there's a part of me as an artist and this person who deeply loves art, I understood. And that's my problem. My problem was I'm willing to understand Kanye. My problem is I'm willing to watch something and go, he's thinking of this more like Michelangelo than he is Dr. Dre. I'm willing to do that. And so when it dropped, I was like, having Donald Trump and Caitlyn Jenner and Rihanna and Taylor Swift and Chris Brown, Ray J, those are all choices. And then like just the extended point where they're just like sleeping, it was weird. I understood the art of it, but it was still weird. And I was like, the album's good, bro. Like, why are we creating controversy? Because the antic that leads to the tantrum drives attention, which he believes is necessary to push his talent through. And so I'm stunned at him doing something he knows is going to be controversial. And I get that's part of it, but it overshadows, it shrouds the real art, which is the music. And so the monster that he has created at this point, the monster that we have created, we've co-created. He's Frankenstein's monster, right? The monster we've co-created with Kanye at this point rears its ugly head when we get the famous music video, and then subsequently when we get the rants right after the election. Of him being like, it's a new world, Hillary Clinton. You're not going to silence me. They can't silence me. What are you going to do? And then, boom, the Pablo tour gets canceled. And boom, he ends up in the hospital. And for the first time, we were like, oh, he's actually sick. This isn't just grief. This is a mental health issue, which once again gave people like me the ability to go, okay, there's something else happening here. I'm still going to rock with the music. Like I'm still going to go back and listen to Never Let Me Down. Like I'm still going to do that because like I can separate, I can breathe in, breathe out. Like I could do that because not only is there grief here, but there's also a mental health issue. That's what's happening. And then we get the Trump support. And like Kanye's narcissism tells him that he can do whatever and we will follow him. As a matter of fact, Kanye's narcissism tells him to do the wildest thing possible at any given moment to see if we will follow him. And throughout his career, that is exactly what we've done. Throughout Kanye's career, Kanye was prepared to wild out at the 2005 Grammys if he didn't win. Which is why I said, he's going to wild out. Everybody wanted to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know. Like, that was him saying, bro, y'all know I was going to wild out. But I guess we'll never know if I was going to wild out because I won. Through his entire career, Kanye has done the outrageous thing and turned around and been like, are y'all following me? And that's exactly what we've done. We've trained him to believe that we will follow him to the ends of his own delusion, to the ends of his own like narcissistic thought. We always followed. And I've always excused the behavior. Always. Dang, Kanye's sick. Then he was at Trump Tower. And I was like, yeah, nah, no, not like that, you're not. But I was like, he's sick. And I'm not following the sick man. Pablo was the last Kanye album that I had in rotation. I've listened to all the other albums, but having them in rotation, in my mind, Kanye's discography went College Dropout to Pablo. And I've long argued that College Dropout to Pablo is a wild discography. Like a wild discography. But man, the Trump support really threw me. It was a bridge too far. And the reality is, no album that Kanye could make was going to overshadow what he was becoming, or, as I would argue, what he had always been, and we were just seeing it in its more extreme form. No album could do that. And the reality is, he hasn't had an album that even made me consider reconsidering that position. He hasn't had one. Alongside, in the Black community, you can get away with anything. You just gotta drop a fire album. He just hasn't been able to do it. And the reality is, it gets worse than the Trump support. Kanye was running around saying this.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
I remember watching this on TMZ, and then I remember Van Lathan's response and him being like, I actually think what you're doing is the absence of thought. And I was like, yes, because it's not about thinking. It's not about thinking. It's about doing the extreme thing for the sake of the extreme thing, and then being like, okay, here's my new album. Because you knew it was coming. You knew when Kanye was running around talking about slavery, that sounds like a choice, bro. Like, you knew at that point that an album has to be coming because he's starting to have a pattern here. The antic to drive attention in order for him to be able to bring success to himself. But Kanye West believes in himself, and he expected to win through it. And so we get that, and then we get the album Yay. And he says on that album, like I said at the beginning of this, on the song Wouldn't Leave, I'm using the same mindset that got us here. Kanye wholeheartedly believes that saying something like slavery is a choice, and he's like, I need to work on my messaging. I'm thinking like George Jetson, but sounding like George Jefferson. Like, he wholeheartedly believes that he's a genius, and he just needs to say it better, and then we'll just follow him. We'll believe him. We'll understand it better. Like, he believes that college dropout worked because of doing stuff like slavery was a choice. He believes that, and we've reinforced it. We didn't get the MAGA hat era. That was wild. That was 2018. Right? Running around with MAGA hat, all up in the White House, like, I love Trump, bro. You can't tell me who I can and can't love, right? That at the same time as the Lift Yourself beat, the poopity scoop, scoop de whoop de poop. Now, I've been on record saying a lot of like egregious things about Drake. I have never said that Drake didn't deserve to feel a way about Kanye. Because it is very evident to me that Kanye screwed over Drake. Drake didn't deserve that at all. But Kanye's not healthy, bro. He's bipolar, man. You know, he hasn't been the same since his mom died, bro. I don't know if he's taking his medicine. Like, he talks about being bipolar in the album. Like, he's struggling with it. Maybe he's off his meds right now. We don't know what's happening. Maybe he's having an episode. Now, as a person who's an educator and who was a pastor and who has worked in a whole host of different ways with a whole host of different people, I'm a big believer in supporting mental health. And I'm a big believer in getting people the help they need. I don't think it's fair that we have continued to blame Kanye's racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, like explicit hate, lack of humanity on bipolarity. Especially when he has access to the best types of treatment, right? He says in the song Roses, we know the best care goes to those who's paid. So if when my grandmama worked in the NBA, if played in the NBA, then she wouldn't then she'd be here today. Like I'm sorry, I messed that lyric up, but he says it. He talks about this in Roses about how we know the best care goes to the folks who are paid. And so we get that era of trolling Drake, T.I. doing the song, and he's like, bro, this isn't working for you. And he was like, nah, I'm repurposing, I'm reframing the hat. which is the exact same thing that he said about the Confederate flag in 2013. So here we are in 2018. He's like, I'm repurposing the MAGA hat in 2013. I'm repurposing the Confederate flag in 2009. I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce, one of the best videos of all time. In 2005, George Bush does not care about black people. And in 2006, if I lose, the award show loses credibility. They're the same thing. It's the same behavior. And this hurts my heart. It hurts my heart so much to be in this spot because like, I just want to believe that it's not that this isn't the same person, that this is a new Kanye and that was the old Kanye and they're different. And so how does he try to fix that? The way that black folks have been trying to fix like public issues for years. Get saved. Now, I'm a pastor's kid and a former pastor, and I've seen so many countless times people who are not mentally stable find God and then utilize God as a filter to their toxicity and their mental illness. And that's exactly what Kanye was doing. Like, I listened to Jesus is King once, and I was like, nah. Now, do I sometimes when I drive past a Chick-fil-A go, closed on Sunday? You my Chick-fil-A. That's legit probably the only lyric from that album I remember. And if you can't tell, I know Kanye lyrics, right? Like that's probably the only lyric from that album I really remember. But what happens? What happens is you get saved, you use God, and then the way that he treated Kim as they were going through the separation, it's like it's so consistent with what I've seen in church. Utilizing Jesus to be abusive. Like being abusive in Jesus' name is wild. And that's what we're seeing from Kanye. He's grieving, but he's sick. No, but he has consistent behavior, sets of antics that he utilizes in order to sell us something. And the thing he wanted to sell us at that point was running for president. 2020, I'm going to run the whole election. And I remember watching clips of his first political rally and him being like, my dad wanted to have my mom abort me. Can you imagine there wasn't a Kanye West? And I was like, it became sad. It was beyond sad to watch. Once again, the episode 3 of the Genius documentary, I've watched a couple of times now. Once because it was what I had downloaded on my phone on the plane. And I was just like, that's the hardest thing to watch because you walk away from the 3rd episode of the Genius documentary and go, he's not well. He's not okay at all. And yet what is happening is he bipolar? Yes. Has he ever been the same since his mom died? No. Does that mean that he gets to do the things he does? No. He's consistently using these antics in order to sell us something because he believes attention is the only way that he'll get his talent out. Because at the end of the day, he's sick, but he won't take the help. And since then, obviously we got the Donda album, and around the Donda album time, we get, the tweet about going DEFCON 3, anti-Semitism. I couldn't for the life of me understand it. I kept being like, what is it? What is he doing? Why is he saying this? Like, what is happening right now? Why are you being anti-Semitic? Like, I'm telling y'all, and I know it's coming across in the video and on the pod, like, genuinely confused by it. And just couldn't wrap my head around why is he doing this? Why is he being like this? And I kept going, oh, well, the manic episodes. So when he's manic, he's anti-Semitic. Manic episode, anti-Semitism on Twitter. But I couldn't figure it out. And I just got to the point where I was like, I didn't want to watch it. And this is also the point where those antics aren't driving the attention they used to. You can't just do the thing and it drive attention so that he can get his talent out. The tantrums are no longer working. He's only hurting himself. When I first had kids, I remember my mom telling me that the reason why you don't let a kid fall out, right? Like just, the reason why you don't let them do that is because they'll hurt themselves. She said, it's not about embarrassment. Don't be embarrassed that your kid they want some Skittles, you said no, and it's not about embarrassment. If they fall and hit their head on that floor, it hurts them. We're at the point where Kanye's tantrums hurt him. They used to work for him. He used to get what he wanted out of them. And now he's just a 40-something-year-old man who is sick and nobody really wants to look at anymore. And we get to this past week, the tweets, Free Puff. Let's be clear. Sean Combs is in jail right now because he committed crimes and recorded himself committing those crimes. He made his own evidence. And so the idea that he should be supported or should be freed somehow is only exacerbated by the fact that many of us saw the video of him physically assaulting Cassie. So then for Kanye to make a shirt or a hoodie that looks like the hoodie that Cassie had in the video where she was assaulted is so egregious. And between that and then taking everything off the site and just having the swastika, it's so egregious. And the reality is that Kanye's now beyond the pale. He's been beyond the pale for a decade. For a decade now, Kanye has done stuff that completely overshadows any talent he has left. The reality is, I can no longer do the thing that I've done for so long, which is be like, okay, well, that's the new Kanye, and I still miss the old Kanye, straight from the go Kanye, set his goals Kanye, like chop up the soul Kanye. I hate the new Kanye, the bad mood Kanye, the always rude Kanye, the snap in the news Kanye. No, Kanye has been the bad mood Kanye, the always rude Kanye, snap in the news Kanye since George Bush does not care about black people. Everybody wanted to see if I was going to wild out. Everybody wanted to know what I would do if I didn't win. Since the beginning. And I can no longer allow the fact that Kanye, can I talk to you for a second? I can't allow that to overshadow this anymore. The reality is that he invented Kanye. There wasn't any Kanyes. Now he looks around, there's so many Kanyes, and he has to keep changing because he has to be different. And he turns around and says, will you follow me as I'm different? And even though so many of us still loved Kanye, the reality is that Kanye only loves Kanye. And I can't support any longer and pretend any longer like this has anything to do with art or music. It is a sick man. He's a sad, pathetic little man who has my pity. And I can't do it anymore. Because at the end of the day, this is always about Kanye loving Kanye. Thanks for coming to my way and talk.
My dream and reality seem far apart. If a dream is a wish that you make in your heart, then I would dream y'all would kiss me some money to start. Cause in my dream I could just focus on my art.
This episode of The Just Wayne Show was written by me, Just Wayne. The intro music was Rise, a song by me that I referenced earlier. And also the music that you just heard is Delulu, another song by me. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone or as many people as possible. Like it, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'll be back here next week talking about whatever's happening in the world. But until then, thank you so much. Thank you for coming to my way and talk.